Major. I'm on site.
In the interest of proper disclosure, keep in mind this review comes from somebody with a great deal of familiarity and appreciation for the 1995 animated Ghost in the Shell movie, the TV series standalone complex, and even somewhat with the manga. I will attempt to provide an opinion that can cover both those who are familiar and those who are not familiar with other source material as best I can. But I felt the need to put that out there in the interest of disclosure. But enough of that prattle, on with things. This is the latest adaptation of a manga out of Japan and draws a great deal of its stylistic cues and some of its events directly from the anime adaptation of 1995. It draws from that anime strong enough that some of the most visually impactful sequences are adapted directly from the animated film. Unfortunately, those are some of the strongest moments in the movie, and outside of those, it often flounders trying to create its own identity. Ghost in the Shell has always been the story of the heavily cybernetic Major and the team that works under her for Public Security Section 9. The cyberpunk world this takes place in is visually spectacular, with holographic images liberally speckled about, from data displays to a constant barrage of advertising that makes the cityscapes feel even more cluttered and dense than they already were, without resorting to the dark shadows and film noir aesthetics of something like Blade Runner. Cybernetics are also on display with a frequency that helps sell the image of them as ubiquitous and makes the special agents of Section 9 feel more like a natural extension of the world and not just an elite super team, allowing them to stand out by virtue of their skills and coordination as opposed to simple artificial augmentation. That, however, points to one of the weaker aspects of the live-action Ghost in the Shell, in that most characters are painfully underdeveloped, with most barely receiving the acknowledgement of a name. Where the characters are developed, most of the time they fall shy of their presentation in other media. Though I credit Scarlett Johansson for her portrayal of this film's version of the Major, this is not the Major as we know her from other sources. This Major is neither the distant but confident, calculating tactician that serves as the guiding force of both the plot and the team in the anime adaptations, nor is she the sharp-tongued pillar that serves as the anchor for Section 9 in the manga. Admittedly, the Major as presented here is closer to the anime version, but unlike her anime counterpart, Scarlett Johansson's Major is pulled along by events in the plot, instead of pushing them forward of her own volition. This feels to weaken the Major when it would have been preferable for her to be the strong guiding force for the movie, though this will likely be less of a sticking point for those who are encountering the Major for the first time here. As it stands, I can't really recommend this movie to longtime fans of Ghost in the Shell through other media. Where some scenes are stunning live-action recreations of the scenes from 1995, they remain the best moments, and some of them feel like they were shoehorned into the plot for the primary purpose of recreating the iconic visuals, as though those were all that defined the cyberpunk classic. The story weakens the character of the Major compared to her other incarnations and gives too little attention to the other characters to allow them to pick up her slack. I would love to explain why she is a weaker character here than in 1995, but to do so would require spoilers. The story itself, though, feels a standard Western cyberpunk fare. Though it does attempt to weave a philosophical angle into the story, it does so with such blunt trauma that it becomes a core element as opposed to the comparatively subtle layering from the 95 anime. Honestly, if this is your first exposure to Ghost in the Shell, it will make for a passable story with visual splendor that stands tall beside the best of recent offerings. If you can excuse a number of moments that seem to revel in teasing the idea of a naked Scarlett Johansson, reveling in the skin-tight camouflage, or scenes where the camera lingers over exposed machinery in ways that serve no further purpose for communicating the scene. I want to suggest those who are familiar with the series wait for a rental for this one, but those who lack such familiarity, go give it a try. The movie does have its good points, they're just hard to look past its shortcomings when compared to its original.